tap all night?
Okay,
No. I was saying this is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying this is killer.
I thought that was turn it up.
Yeah.
Louder.
All right, everyone. Today we're talking about bass brings us together 2026. Just been back for about a day or so. Immediately wanted to kind of write down kind of my thoughts about the event and get the camera up so it's pretty fresh. So hopefully this video's up pretty shortly after the event. Don't want to wait too long. I know while we're still, generating hype, kind of letting, everyone else kind of start releasing their own videos from the event. There's a lot of people that were attending, but very fortunate that I got to go. So we're going to hear kind of some of my thoughts today. I'm going to kind of take it, from day one, day two, to kind of talk about the systems, talk about overall what the event means for me and kind of, what I think it means for the overall kind of home theater community as well. But I don't think it's appropriate to start a video like this without saying first and foremost, shout out to Scott Newby, shout out to Kat as well. I think they are some of the best hosts really in the entire home theater community, at least in the US. They really set such a high bar, such a high standard. And if you've ever been to one of their events, even if you couldn't make this year, you've been in a previous year, or you catch any of their future events, they set the high standard. It's definitely a lot of things I have learned from their event that I will implement when I get to start hosting kind of my own home theater events. There's a lot to kind of emulate there that I think they really did an excellent job. So I guess I'm gonna kind of start with what I would consider, I guess, day one. So day one was kind of like a media day. There were quite a few content creators there. Getting footage of the room, getting some of the first demos of that system in action. I got to meet quite a few awesome people. I met up with Brad, Home Theater Gamer, at the airport. He rented a Turo and was able to kind of drive me and Michael to Scott's place. Obviously, I got to meet Scott. I got to meet his wife, Kat. I also got to meet Ike from Easy HT Tech. He was there as well. Just a whole bunch of guys. I got to meet Taylor, my boy Taylor from Utani Theater. Definitely check out his channel. He's doing some crazy, amazing things in his room on his channel. Was such an awesome thing to be able to meet him. And really just throughout the whole event, was just meeting tons of people that, I've seen through Zoom calls or just on Discord or on other people's channels. It was amazing, but we'll get to that part kind of in a bit. So day one, kind of a little bit of easy access, get to hear. There's no critical listening at the event, but if there was any time to do it, it was kind of that day. It was really, really awesome. Pretty easy stuff that happens there. Kind of getting around to day two, Scott has got 3 systems that are basically in constant use, throughout the entire event. Day two, there's no critical listening going on. There's not really the digging into the minutia. It is just go, 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 action, action, action. Hanging out, having a lot of fun. But we're kind of going to go through, each of the 3 systems, I think, kind of tell you my highlights of each one, what I really liked about it. It's a lot of crazy stuff in a very modest but pretty spacious and very cozy Illinois home. Scott and Kat really have an amazing home, and they made everyone feel like a guest, and really truly were like, listen, we got food, we got snacks, we got beer, we got soda, like, your house is my house. And they really, I'll drive that point home later in the video. But anyway, getting back to the cool gear stuff, right? So we'll kind of start from least crazy to craziest, right? So starting with, I think, the most modest system was the 3.2 Kalo system that Scott has in the living room. And actually, it's not 3.2, it's a 5.2, because there are the 38s doing surround duty as well. But I've been fortunate enough to basically hear that system already at an event hosted that Jeff Permanian and Youthman hosted at his house after the Florida Audio Expo in February. The Kalo systems, man, if you're okay with crossing your speakers over a little higher than normal, about 100, 120, these speakers rock. If you're willing to give them a sub to really supplement that low end, this is a great affordable way to get JTR performance in in really any room you can think of. They've got high output, great clarity. They take EQ well for you to really kind of custom dial in how your listening preferences are. And of course, they've got that sleek look that I think really gets them rating high on the wife approval factor. JTR, they are known for their big drivers for big speakers, and this is a great way to really get them kind of in a family friendly situation. They could go great complementing a bigger JTR LCR, but maybe you don't have a lot of room like I do in my room for, side surrounds, re-surrounds, Atmos deployments. I mean, Kalos is going to be a great way to, be able to kind of augment your budget. If you have a big budget, or, a moderate budget where you can't go crazy JTR everywhere, well, let's take some of that budget and really put it into your front stage. Maybe you can do some bigger front stage speakers and save some money going with Kalos on the surrounds, or build an entire system around Kalos. Um, I've said I think this will be Jeff's best selling line of speakers. Truly, I really mean that. And hearing them in Scott's room, they are high performing. He mentioned this is where I consumed my media while I was doing my whole theater rebuild, and I'm sure he was more than happy, man. It was awesome, especially we got to the point to play a little bit of live in Prague, so I really got to hear I believe they're the 38s. I'll post the link, but the surround speakers there as well really gave a nice full filling system as well. And then of course the Kalos 12 sub, it's insane. Um, Jeff was kind of playing DJ, kind of along both kind of systems along the day, but I feel like for the first few hours of me being at kind of the event, he was really letting that Kalo system hit, man. And when you pack two of those 12-inch subs, you really get a lot of output. In a nice little confined living room space, they definitely had it thumping, had some good shake to them. So, like I said, it's really exciting to kind of get to experience a lot of these JTR systems and really kind of be able to tell what I think. The Kalos line I think is so awesome that we're rocking and rolling with those, and Jeff is always innovating all the time, all the different lines of speakers. So I definitely think if you've been looking at JTR for years and you feel like you don't have the dedicated space for it, again, I really can't recommend Kalos enough. So that kind of concludes the full JTR speakers, JTR subwoofers system in the house. The rest of the systems, with a bit of a caveat, are all now going to be RTJ based, and so it's been known for a while, but I still see some confusion versus JTR, RTJ. What are they? So before I kind of go forward, because you're going to hear me say RTJ a lot, JTR for some speakers, let's get it settled and clarified right now. So JTR speakers and JTR subwoofers is, Jeff Permanian. It's the subwoofers that he builds, the speakers that he builds, from the monitors to the HT slants to the Kalos, all JTR speakers, JTR subwoofers, your RS1s, your RS2s, etc. Now, RTJ, still Jeff Permanian's engineering, design, deployment, all of that. But this is his pro cinema line of speakers. So the premium, creme de la creme Jeff Permanian design. I think with this new brand of RTJ speakers, we're looking at really kind of full active DSP at the amplifier stage, at the crossover stage. Again, Scott himself is going to have a probably much more professional video where he really lays out the specs of the speakers. Of course, I'm going to have links to all the details about all the gear that I talked about that I experienced at Bass Brings Us Together as well. But so think same guy, Jeff Permanian, just kind of two tiers, right? JTR is kind of where a lot of us, I think, are going to sit. But for the crazies, the people that really want to set up a true, not a home theater, but a home cinema experience, RTJ is going to be there. And I still think, again, these prices are going to be crazy. We're talking about, 20 grand close to for a pair of the 224 subs I'll talk about later. But again, when you compare to other people that make 24-inch subwoofers, you will see that RTJ is still tons and tons of value, even at that very, very high end. So from there, now we kind of understand the differences between the two. I want to talk about the new and improved Tower of Power that's here. And so the RTJ Behemoth, it's really everything that you've heard and seen on YouTube in previous videos, previous iterations. Um, Effortless is really the best way to describe it. There's so much authority, loudness at display, and the thing about it is, even at the loudest levels, it was never like peaky or like screechy or just like, like kind of like a drill going into your ear. That I hit my system hard enough. I don't really have, I think I've got power enough, but my speakers just don't have that like output where, we can get things to kind of squeal a little bit, but they just don't do that. They just stay loud and focused and razor sharp, and they don't get fatiguing, almost in a way where like you may not even be aware of the hearing damage that you get. It's just it's so seamless. And truthfully, I feel that way about every, JTR RTJ speaker that I hear. This is just what I noticed really, with, kind of getting to pick some of my own music to listen on the system. Jeff kind of has his reel of songs that he really knows how to demonstrate the different strengths of his system. But it's a really ridiculous implementation. Again, going with the version 2's kind of like I said with the RTJ Switch, right? It's all now fully digital active crossovers. I think now Scott pretty much has an entire digital signal chain, from a Blue Sound node, and it's just all digital basically all the way up to the active crossover stage, which just gets you just that little bit extra to squeeze out of already really great crossover engineering, driver design. I totally understand why that's Cat's system, man. It looks ridiculous. It's not for everyone, but I'm so glad that we get to see someone do it, and it sounds so incredible. It was the highlight of it, man. Like, that's just kind of where everyone kind of went. The Kalo system had some people sitting around, hanging out. There was a nice couch there. There's a beautiful couch also in kind of the music listening room. And that's kind of where a lot of people would go to kind of hang out while they're waiting for, their trial, their time to get into the theater as well. So I like that part quite a bit, that it was kind of the conglomerate state. But every once in a while, Scott would come by and just crank it, and it was so much fun. I just basically love what I heard in that setup for 2-channel stuff. Just all that same high performant razor focused imaging that you get from JTR, and those 418 subwoofers just have so much power behind them. And the crazy thing too, and you'll see this a little bit with some of the other subwoofers, is the bigger the subwoofer gets, the more power you need to make it do excursion. My little 12-inch subwoofers, like, man, I barely have to play anything to get those things moving to where it like looks cool. But those 18s, to get them to like move and actually flex, you have to give it some real juice, and Scott did it plenty. It's just it's amazing. It's amazing. But now we're getting to the part that I think everyone wants to talk about. The reason we probably attended the event, the reason we clicked on it, we've been seeing Scott work on this project for over 6 months. I remember seeing the video like, hey, I'm selling it over in the theater. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, you're building a new theater. Okay, crazy. And so here we are, the new 150 plus dB experience. We've got 24 of the RTJ 24 subs. Those also come again with the DSP enabled amplifiers as well. We get the brand new RTJ 212 active speakers that are kind of that same, like cube design as well. So they're perfectly square to kind of fit in line with the subs. There are a couple JTR speakers. He's got the SLs for rear surrounds, and he's got the in walls for both his, front and rear Atmos. So it is still a couple JTR speakers, but still a timbre match incredibly well. Again, this theater is probably the biggest reason why we all know Scott, why we've clicked on his channel. And this room left me absolutely speechless. Every aspect of it. The picture quality was incredible. Absolute, floor to ceiling, 16:9 image. Great, great brightness, authority, nice, pop and color. Just so immersive. I'm really just so grateful to like have a community around me that allows me to like see and experience these different projectors that like I can tell you the differences between an Epson and a JVC and what I like about both and why, if you're someone who prefers black levels, this is why this should do this. If you have infinite money and you want both, let's go ahead and get something like a Christie, right? Just to be able to have that opportunity to try out these different projectors, I'm so grateful. And so, it's really giving me good ideas when I really go for my like end game theater, and I get to kind of know and get to still have opportunities to connect with other enthusiasts and figure out what I really want when I go for my end game home theater. So talking about like some of the audio equipment in the theater, I really just want to take a moment to start with the RTJ 212 Active. The new active main speaker of the theater. Truthfully, this is the best speaker that I've ever heard. Scott Newby does this interesting thing with his demo reel, and he's curated it in such an interesting way. So we get down, we sit down, and the first thing he plays is a clip from Sing 2. And I'm like, okay, whatever, like a complete child's movie, whatever, haha. But like, it shows off the beautiful colors of the Epson projector, and then the little character starts singing, and you just get this incredibly focused sound coming right from that, center channel, that, 212 active. And the voice is just there, very high quality. Again, acoustically transparent screens so coming right at you from the middle of the screen. You hear all the detail in the instruments and the voices. You can hear kind of the reverb of the stadium as it kind of plays through the side surrounds, the back surrounds, a little bit in the Atmos, and then the rest of the band comes in, the LFE comes in. I think the male voice comes in and shows you that, guess what? This center channel, of course, look at it, it's huge. It's got some big authority in there as well. It was also genius that Scott put those 212s as his side surrounds as well. Completely overkill, completely ridiculous, but you know what? Calibration is everything, and so even if you're sitting on those two end seats right next to those behemoths, it's still pleasant. And when you're sitting in that sweet spot, it's incredible. They sound amazing. I think it's awesome that, again, because Scott doesn't have like the youth man, swivel where I can just reveal my front stage on a dime. Scott, can't do that. It's a permanent install. So he's got them as side surrounds, so you can still look at, how Jeff engineered the drivers, that coax in the middle. It's overkill, but we know that about Scott as well. So it gets really more and more intense. And then of course, again, kind of going back to how Scott engineered his reel, it gets a bit more intense. I'm a huge fan of that Sinners demo that's been, I first heard it at the Florida Audio Expo. I've since introduced it into my demo reel. It looks and sounds incredible. Again, starts with that strong center channel focus of Preacher Boy playing the acoustic guitar. And you hear that kind of, lower range voice with still such airy, nice quality. You hear, the plucking of his guitar strings and such incredible clarity. On the visual side, again, Scott is running a 16:9. And so that movie has that part where the beginning of the scene starts in, ultra cinemascope and it just expands, and it's just so incredible. And then he really ends it up with the scene from Dune 2, which was just kind of full throttle. Here's bass, here's punch, here's cooking, and it's just so incredible, so immersive. Every time you watch it, you just want to go home and watch Dune on your theater. It's incredible, and again, there's just one after watching his reel a couple times, I'm like, you know what, this was meticulously curated and engineered in such an incredible way. Because then when I saw how it worked, then the next day when it's live and Scott's got 80, 90, probably 100 people, and we just got to go 22 minutes. There's not really enough time for us to get in the room, and someone's like, oh, I want to hear Top Gun, I want to hear Ready Player One. Nope, Scott's in and out. We got Sin, we got Sinners, we got some Live in Prague, just to kind of show you all the different ranges of systems. And then, of course, at the end of it all, he goes for, just that Dune sequence that just gives you so much incredible visuals. And so, like I said, I think the numbers that we're going off of is I think there are about 87 people, just based on how many food truck orders there were. Of course, I think there are people that kind of trickled in before and after the food truck, so there's probably something to scale. We won't really know the true number of attendees, I think, until Scott and Kat go ahead and count through all the waivers. And speaking of waivers, so after the end, his Dune 2 demo ends, and Scott comes back in the room, goes, hey guys, what'd you think? And do you guys want to stick around for the 150 dB experience? And if you go out to Bass Brings Us Together, I recommend you bring hearing protection, and you do it. It's crazy. He only does it for a few seconds. You're not going to ruin it, but you definitely should have hearing protection. And he just goes completely full throttle when he shakes the entire house. I'll have a video of kind of what it looks like from both perspective. Like, it's like there's not a thing. Every person in that house knows that it's like, okay, this demo's almost over, because the entire foundation of the house feels like it's breaking. And so when you're actually sitting in the seat, it's just ridiculous, and it's violent, and there's not a single YouTube video or word or just anything that I could ever describe what it actually feels like. You just have to be there. You have to experience it.
Did you tap out, right?
No. I was saying this is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying this is killer.
I thought that was turn it up.
Yeah.
Louder.
Whoa. Yeah, you do that once in a lifetime. Don't do it
Yeah. That's my
Again.
second time today.
This is
I think.
amazing. Yeah.
Crazy.
Was it worth the trip, Ike?
Yes.
The closest that I think is that it has kind of that same adrenaline feeling as being on a roller coaster. And then when he actually hits like the super loud, you can see his on-screen display for his AVM 70 that he's just cranking, and right before like a nice big jump step drop, it feels like a roller coaster. It sucks the air out of your lungs, just like that same sensation. I wish I could go back and experience it right now. And yeah, I mean, even if you're not like a big fan of like super loud things, put some little foam in-ear plugs, and then he's also gotten every single seat an actual like separate set of cans, so some people were like double ear protection up. Because again, it's not about like the hearing, it's about like feeling it shake your bones and rattle your body and take your breath away. It's just, oh, there's nothing like it. I'm so glad I got to experience that. It just makes you belly laugh, and it's intense. It's intense. All right. So you heard me, gush about all the gear and, the new subs, the new RTJ line, getting to hear kind of the whole spectrum of what Jeff and his speakers have to offer. Get to see, Epson and their offerings with the QL7000. I got to see Chris's screen from Seymour as well. They actually had a representative from Epson out as well, but um, I really think that's all secondary to the most important part about this event to me and this whole video, and it's really just about the community. I met so many home theater enthusiasts, so many people like you guys, and it's just so crazy. Like, I've been attending, Youth Man's Patreon Zoom call for like 3 years now, and there's guys that I meet with twice a month, and we hang out and we talk about our journeys and our theaters, and I got to shake their hand and hang out with them, have a beer with them, talk about what our goals are, what our plans are, what we thought of Scott's system, and it's what it's all about, that we can go and just enjoy and celebrate. I got to hang out with industry professionals like Melvin Diaz, man, what a cool guy. And he just, he get it that this was just something, a vibe that could not be replicated by a trade show. Just something about a community of people that flew in and drove in, for technically a 22-minute experience at the end of the day, but hours and hours and conversations that are priceless, and built friendships that are priceless. And this is just why I I love with what Youth Man is doing, going out on his own and creating community AV, because this is what we need as enthusiasts, to understand that, like, you're not alone in this hobby. I had a conversation with someone who came up, talked to me that they were also kind of thinking about getting into YouTube and starting a channel, but maybe feeling like I don't have the best gear, or what am I an authority on? And I'm like, dude, screw that. Like, I bought a camera. I felt like I had something to say. I wanted to talk to other enthusiasts about the journey, the gear that I was buying, why I was buying it. I pressed record and I started it. And we need more people doing that. We're now kind of in the age where, like, people don't really have home, theater systems, right? Smart TVs, sound bars have kind of taken everything over. Most people seriously just consume their content on one of these and a pair of AirPods, right? So, the more people that we can share that, hey, we're getting these cinematic experiences in our home from all ranges, right? Like, I don't have a projector. I've got a TV. I don't even have Atmos. I have 7.2, and I come home and I have immersive, incredible experiences every day, and I can't wait to, share my room when I'm, a little bit more of a finished point. I'm of course going to open up my home and do an Orlando hangout as well. And that's just like what it's about. And of course, getting to hear different gear, right? It's about the gear too. Really, because Youth Man started Community AV, and I decided to just get a little bit more out there this year alone. We're in May right now, and I've got to hear so many different systems. I got to hear, several JTR systems that have Ascendo speaker systems built around Focal, RBH. I got to hear Cricks in Theory at a trade show, and I'll be able to travel, to at some point maybe like Taylor's house and listen to his really fully dialed in theory system, right? And again, just getting to hear different systems, decide what I like, what are my preferences, what type of speaker sound profile do I like. You can never know that without hearing other speakers, and what other way to do that than to build friendships in this hobby. And I'm sure a lot of us feel like there's not a lot of people out there that really share our hobby. And man, how beautiful it was for me, and hopefully all of you, to be proven wrong with something like this this weekend. I mean, I talked to people that came from Oregon to Chicago to, ultimately really spend 22 minutes listening to Scott's theater and hours upon hours just hanging out, and it's so amazing. Um, and I love what Youth Man is doing. Please go to Community AV, join one of his Facebook groups for your local area. If there's not one, start it. I don't care if you've got a Costco clip system and the cheapest Denon AVR that Costco sold you, and you set that up and you played some. You know what? Uh, you want to invite some people over, you need some help building a highlight reel or a little showcase, shoot me a message, leave a comment, build out a group, send an email to Youth Man. Let's build this thing, man, because this is one of the things that I really appreciate about Melvin and Epson is that this is what's going to move it forward. The community of us, getting more people involved in this, because again, like, the trade shows are cool. I love a good trade show. I love being able to rapid fire hearing different systems, but it does not have that homey community friendship building, vibe the same way as going to someone's theater that they've spent, time putting their personalities into and calibration, and all of that. And so, just what a pleasure for that to be the case. And really, finally, like, where would we be without Scott Newby? What an absolutely amazing host. I know I said it, that he's really setting the gold standard for how to set up these home theater hangouts, man. From day one, he was the most humble, enthusiastic guy. You could see it in his face the whole weekend. He was tired. He was exhausted. This was 6 months of work. I mean, man, he cut it close to the wire, man. That theater wasn't even put together 7 days before the event, and he did all of it, including a 10-hour calibration for each individual 24 subs. I asked. He did not calibrate in groups of 4. No, each individual 24 subs had its own, I would assume, some EQ, some delay. Who knows? Again, I'll leave that to Scott to really talk about that stuff. But even after all of that, he was the most genuine, humble, answered any question. You could just tell that these people, radiate with passion about what they do and what they work on. That, he was such a nice and cool guy. He didn't care to be bothered about questions. And the whole time, I mean, I'll tell you what, day 2, I left the man alone because he was just being pulled in a million different directions. But, it was a pleasure to be able to kind of spend some time with him and hang out and, get some dinner and play some pool after the event. And particularly, his other half, Kat, she's the hero of Bass Brings Us Together. You can tell she actually likes this stuff and she enjoys what she does. She worked incredibly hard, alongside Scott. Even day 1 media day, where there's like not that many of us, she's going out, she's getting drinks, she brought us back pizza, she made sure that we were taken care of. She genuinely loves hosting these events, loves interacting with the community. She was running around making sure, everyone had their waiver signed, making sure everyone was good. Checked in on me a few times too. How you doing, Mike? How you doing? Jeff, checking in on everyone. Just one of the most friendliest people I will ever meet. And, I know without her, what Scott could do, isn't even possible. So, thank you so much, Kat. Thank you for opening up your home to these sycophants, man. We're crazy people, but honestly, Kat's a bass junkie too. I was going back to the airport to get dropped off by Scott, and I went to go to the trunk, and he's like, "Nah, there ain't no room for nothing there." And there's a 6 sub in Kat's trunk. She likes it. So, I think that's super awesome. These two really love audio, subwoofers, music, home theater, home cinema, but really most important, it's that they love community. And the times that we live in when we're kind of more isolated than ever. And again, like, the home theater hobby, hi-fi in general, just not being as mainstream, man. I really feel like we need community. And honestly, like, I'm so enthusiastic about what both of these guys are doing on their endeavors. With Youth Band, with Community AV, Scott and Kat with Bass Brings Us Together. Again, Youth Band went out on his own, started Community AV. The goal of really just bringing us together, giving us the ability to connect and hang out, build those friendships, and really get to have him represent the brands that he handpicks, that he has built relationships with, has had in his own systems as well. And trust to kind of get you on your go, get you what you need to go. Scott with Bass Brings Us Together and Kat, they have the same idea, and they said it themselves. Technically, they're competitors, but that doesn't matter to either of them. The point is they both want to build community. They want us all to be able to share, not just JTR, not just Epson, not just like anything, man. We've got, I'm sure there's people with incredible systems with Valerians and people like me that still have to kind of have TVs, and people with living room setups that are just slowly building them out, none of that matters, man. And Scott will be the first person that will tell you that doesn't matter. Scott will come to my place at some point. I don't have Atmos. I've got two 12-inch subs, and I'm sure he'll look at me and go, hey, man, this is a cool system. I can see that you put yourself into it, and I'm sure that, it don't come close to giving me the chest pounding that I need by my 24-inch subs, but I know for damn sure that you will go sit down with your girlfriend or your wife, and you're going to watch a movie and enjoy it with your family, and that's what it's all about. And the home theater community it's like family too, and that's what we're trying to get to. And so ultimately, really the one thing I want to take from this video is the gear is cool, everything's cool, but support these guys, man. Support Community AV, support Bass Brings Us Together. Buy a t-shirt from Scott. Come on out to the next event that Scott hosts. Again, both of these guys are dealers. They will get you what you need, and they're happy to open up their homes to you, to let you experience these systems and figure out, what it is, what if it needs. Even if you decide that, what, man, I don't know if I want to hear the difference between per listen and JTR, they'll give you the opportunity to listen to JTR and RTJ. And you know what? If they decide, I actually do think I prefer per listen or RBH or some other brand that they don't sell, they don't care. They're happy that they made a friend, that they had a connection, that you were over to share the experience with that. And that's all that it's about, man. But with that said, I mean, there's not a lot of people that I have heard JTR and really went another direction in some way. But, let's support both of these guys. If you are someone that's interested in building out a JTR system, please consider, get your speakers from Community AV, buy your subs from Scott, figure out a way. Again, let's build this thing together, and again, I'm so fortunate to be in a position where I could go to an event like this and share my experience with the community and meet so many of you. It really makes my heart warm, and I'm excited to see where Community AV is going to be in a year, in 2 years, where there's going to be communities in several different communities per state. I think really that we can get there, we can grow this thing, and get to a point where we can bring home theater, maybe not to the mainstream where it'll ever be. I mean, just streaming and the world's changed from that, but we can bring this to other people. I saw a lot of younger dudes like myself that are into car audio and kind of branch into this, and it's like, man, like, we all start somewhere, right? I started out with 2 clip speakers. If you guys go to the channel, my very first video was a tour about how I got to where I am, and even in just a few short years of putting myself out there, of building out a system, I'm at the point where I thought the system I had now was end game, just maybe even a couple years ago. So this is what it is. It's a long haul. Scott and Michael did not build their theaters on the drop of a dime. This was years and years of the workforce of flipping gear. So you can't let that discourage you. You have to enjoy it, and there's not really a better way to enjoy it than to just enjoy it with other enthusiasts, and get advice and things like that. This video is probably getting a little longer in the tooth, but I felt like I had a lot to say. I'm feeling really good about the community and just how things are. And again, Scott, Kat, thank you again so much. I will definitely make it out next year. We'll see if Scott, maybe even decides to do another event this year. I'll go out there. That deep dish pizza is really, really good. But anyway, thanks guys for checking out the channel. I will see you guys in the next one.